Arrays in PHP. Okay, so arrays are actually pretty easy to create in PHP. The constructor for an array object is called array. So I can go ahead and make an array containing 2 and 17 to the string hello and 99. Okay, great. Now, of course, you don't believe me that I made an array there, right? So I'll go ahead, I'm going to use, actually, I'll refer to this array several times. So I'm going to put the result into a variable. I don't need to, but I'll call this variable a very descriptive name stuff, because it's just sort of random stuff for my example here. Okay, so now I can go ahead and say something like, we can look at echo stuff. Just like in Java, when you have an array object and you call toString on it, the built-in toString is not helpful for arrays. Okay. Well, similarly, echo on PHP arrays. In fact, it's because echo wanted a string, and so there was a string to array to string conversion that was called here, and it's a the default conversion is kind of annoying. So let's use vardump. Okay, there we are. Now we can see I have an array with 4 things in it. Curly brackets tells me that 0 is associated, the index 0 holds 17, the index 1 holds 2, the index 2 is associated with the string hello, the index 3 is associated with 99. Okay, and you can do stuff like do things like you might have guessed. I can say, hey, tell me what is at index 2. I'll echo that, and sure enough, the string hello. By the way, you notice that these are not heterogeneous arrays. You can have different types inside the same array. It can be some ints and some strings and some booleans or whatever you like. So you can assign to fields. You can say stuff of 1 gets, instead of 17, we can make it 71. And now I'm going to go back and do that vardump and see the whole thing. And sure enough, index 1 is now associated with 71. So, okay, I was confused. I thought I held 17, but I was confusing my indices already. Okay, we have this array here. And just to be clear, vardump, you don't need to have a variable sitting there. You can have the array that we made up at the first point. I'll go back here. Vardump and pass it an array straight off the bat. That's what's really happening. When I say vardump of $stuff, first the language says, oh, $stuff. Hey, whenever you see a variable, go find what that variable holds and replace it with the value of that variable. And that's what's being passed to vardump. We don't need to go through that intermediate step of holding something in a variable and then looking it up if we don't want to. And again, so the name vardump should be value dump, or valdump, but we'll live with it. Great, I have arrays. How do I loop over arrays in PHP? Here's how we're going to do it. For each, and I'll go ahead and say stuff as item. So this is a weird syntax. For each stuff as item. Loop over the array stuff, and we're going to make a new local variable called item that is going to refer to each of the things in the array sequentially. Okay, so actually before I do that, I want to do something useful. I want to actually maybe add up all the numbers in the array, so I'll have a new variable called sum so far gets 0 for each stuff as, the word as doesn't need to be capitalized. But it's a keyword, so I'm just emphasizing this there. I think it reads better when it is capitalized for some reason. Okay, sum so far plus gets item. Okay, so we're not, this is a for each loop, a little bit more of a generalization. Java has for each loops as well. I don't need to keep track of the index. My variable item is already going to hold the contents in the array. So I'm going to do this. I'll go ahead and just for fun, since we're demoing this, echo looking at item. I'll use the fact that I can put a variable in the middle of my string constant and it'll get substituted. Okay, and sure enough, looking at 71, looking at 17, whatever, hello, and 99. Echo, what is sum so far going to be? 71 and 17, that's 88. 99 and 88. Ugh. That 90 and 80 is 170, and another 17, 187. 187 plus the value of the string hello. Ooh, hello didn't have any digits at the front, so it's going to count as 0. So 187. Okay, great. We have worked through this. By the way, in Java, when you have a for loop, say we had a similarly counting variable, you say for. And I know in Java you're tempted to say for I get 0, I is less than stuff.length I++, and then deal with stuff square brackets I. Don't do that in PHP. We'll see why in a second. The answer is the indices are not always 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have this, in Java, this would look like int item colon stuff. And then you'd have code in here, except in Java you wouldn't use $signs. And then inside your array you could use your variable item. So it's the same as the for each loop in Java, except that the order of the array and the local variable item is swapped. So, okay. Great. Arrays in PHP. PHP doesn't have arrays. They have something better. Okay, they have hash tables. Okay, or java.util.maps, if you will, or maybe from your Java 2 data structures class, you call them abstract type dictionary. Or if you're an old timer, they call them associative arrays. An array where the index doesn't have to be a number. It can be any value you want. In fact, we're just going to have key value pairs. So instead of an index, it's going to be some sort of, could it be any key at all? Okay, so let's go ahead and look at an example of that. I'm going to make a new array, and I'm going to go ahead and have Jan gets 31 and Feb gets is associated with 28, and the index March will be associated with 31, and so on. March. April will be associated with 30. Okay, I'll do that much there. I'll go ahead and make stick this variable or this array into a variable. So a good variable name for this array. Days in month. Days. Okay. Sounds good. Vardump days. And now we'll see that, hey, in this array, in this hash table, in this associative array, the key Jan is associated with 31. The key Feb is associated with 28. And I can go ahead and look up days, and as an index, pass it Jan. Okay? And get back the value. And if I really want to, if I want to go ahead and say days of Feb and assign to that, yeah, I can go ahead and assign there. And we now see that Feb is associated with the value 29. So these are really hash tables, so we'll call them arrays in PHP. Everybody does call them arrays, but they're usually called hash tables or hashes, or have those other names as well, and they're a bunch of key value pairs. Okay, do you see now why you should not be in the habit of taking your array and looping over it by saying I get 0 while I is less than the size of the array, look up at index I? Yeah, what happens if I go and try to look up at index 2 or index 0 of days? Nothing, there's nothing there. Yeah, so I can do vardump of days of 2, and it actually comes back with null. So this is one of those things, hey, if I look up an array and there's an index that doesn't even exist, shouldn't I get an error? I'd like to get an error, maybe. What do we remember from a previous lecture? Error reporting. Always turn on error reporting. Please turn on all errors and report them to me. Okay, so now I can go ahead and look up this, and I get a notice, undefined offset, undefined index. Why they say offset, Okay, so if you're writing a function that takes in an array, do not loop over it by saying index starts at 0 and goes up to the size, because the array you're given may not have indices 0, 1, 2, 3, and that will simply not work. How do we get the values in the array? We use the foreach loop. Okay. So now you might be wondering, hey, what if I have a foreach loop and I want to go ahead and I want to know the index that I'm at as well, okay? So maybe I really do need to know what index I'm currently looking at. So I don't say just days as item. That's not a very good days. Maybe days is not a very good name either because it's days of certain months or something like that. So days in month. Okay, I can certainly do this. Days in month will hold 31, then it will hold 29, then it will hold 31, then it will hold 30. But what if I want to know the values going with it, the associated key? I can go ahead and do this syntax here, okay? So it kind of makes sense. This is the same syntax I used in the constructor for the array, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, let's go through and echo month has days in it. Okay. And I'll go ahead and while I'm here, again, I don't like just having a loop that is nothing but print, because in real life, your loops never print. They're trying to calculate something. And you're calling some helper function, calling a helper function, calling a helper function that loops through an array. You don't want stuff printing there. You want to be giving answers back. So I'll have my variable total days gets total days plus days. And then I'll go and end that loop. Now, I never did define total days, didn't I? Probably should have set it to be 0 initially. What's going to happen? Oh, it's going to spring into existence with the value null, which when I try to add it will get converted to 0 for me. Since I've turned on error reporting, I will get one error report at the very beginning. This doesn't exist. I try to access it before I try to make my very first assignment to that variable. So I think I'll get one error. But we look through there. So fatal error. So first of all, I get the array to string conversion. And why? Because I should have said days in month there. And then undefined variable total days. Okay. Fatal error, unsupported operand here. Oh, probably this error didn't let me use top days. So therefore, really got to think. Let's go ahead and fix that. Top days gets 0. Let's rewrite this loop correctly. Okay. For each days as month, days in month, great. I'll do ahead. This one will now be fine. But now my echo month, first of all, has all sorts of little things. Has days in month, days in it. And I goofed up again. I see my real error. This doesn't work. Because again, I said days instead of days in month. So clearly, days was a really bad variable name choice because I'm confusing myself. I'm confusing days, the name of the entire array, with then the days of one particular month. So I probably should have called my array, instead of calling it days, I should have called it days of months, something like that. But, okay. So this will give an error again. That's why I'm really getting that unsupported operand for real. One last time. We can get it correct this time. Okay. Days in month. Okay. Get the echo statement just for fun. And so the echo statement gave me Jan has 31 days, Feb has 29 days, and so on. Echo tot days, and I'll get 31, roughly 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30, so around 120, maybe with one extra, 121. Yeah, so, okay. So that is arrays in PHP. Never loop through an array by saying I get 0, I less than size, and incrementing I, and looking up at the index I, use a for each loop. Okay. In fact, I tend to use the square brackets not very often in my PHP arrays. I tend to use for each loops when looping through them, and to create the array, I use the array constructor. So, okay. Now we don't know all about arrays in PHP, and we are happy.